Hi there, hope you're doing fine. I am doing okay. And in case you're not doing okay, like I always say, it's always darkest before dawn. Today I have an amazing guest, and he's going to share with us his story of how he came to Germany, his role as a father in a foreign country, and much, much more. I am Phil Yambo Makora, and this is the Tales of Yambo. Thank you for making time for the interview today. I'm really, really honored to have you here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm sure our viewers want to know who you are, what you do, and how you came to Germany.
All right, Phil, thank you very much for inviting me for the interview. I was very honored when you
That's
asked me
nice.
if you're going to interview me. So who I am, well, my name, of course, is Che Chidi, born in Nigeria, of Igbo ethnicity, which is in the southeastern part of the country. But I was born and raised in Lagos, which is in the southwestern part of the country, which is in Yoruba part of the country. So I speak both languages. And yeah, how I came to Germany, did you ask?
Yes, yes, your journey here.
Well, I was actually transferred here. You know, it's the boring story. There's no,
Now, we want to hear this boring story.
There's nothing dramatic about it. I worked for a German company,
Yeah.
and I was already doing that when I was in Nigeria.
Okay.
And then I was transferred here to be involved in a certain project which, stretched over a couple of years. So that's how I actually settled here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what made you settle here? You liked it? I mean, obviously you had to learn a new language. It's a different culture. It's very different from the Igbo culture or what you're used to. But did you find it easy
Yeah.
trying to fit in here?
Yeah. I mean, it's different from the Nigerian culture, you're right.
Yeah.
And, but my own story is a bit different. I could already speak German in the 90s, in the early 90s, when there was a time there was this very long strike, schools, universities, this and that. So I decided to do something with my time.
Okay.
And I went and I learned German. And not knowing that I would ever live in Germany.
Okay.
But then much later, in the early 2000s, 2001, 2, I found myself working for a German company and also being in Germany at that time for some kind of a diploma program until 2004. So that already sort of connected me with Germany, with the language, with the people, with the culture, with the nature. And the connection just always stayed.
I was also born and raised in Kenya.
Okay.
And obviously, in terms of culture, culture always influences the kind of person you're going to be, like your beliefs, your thoughts. It always molds it and has a great impact on the kind of person you are. And then we come here in a totally different society, which has different practices, different beliefs, it has different structures. For us, it's not always easy to fit in. So I can imagine, as you have a family and you are a father, and first of all, before we go to how you would pass over this this mixture of both cultures to your children, for you yourself, as you said, it was a bit easy because you'd already started learning German from Nigeria. So for you, it was not that difficult to fit in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
Yes and no. You know, for me, basically what I feel is that every human being is an individual. They're an individual spirits, human spirits. And as an individual human spirit, you have something unique about you, which might bear a strong homogeneity to another human spirit from a completely different culture. You know?
Yep.
So that's the first thing. You have your individual personality, which I have, which my culture cannot change it unless I let it change it. A foreign culture cannot change it. unless I let it change it. Nobody can change it. It's me. It's my decision who I want to be, how I want to be, how I want to see the world. You know, maybe parents and all these things might have an influence on it when you're growing up, but in the end, especially if you have something like a strong personality, it breaks through in spite of, or maybe even because of everything that is thrown at it. You know, so, but yes, I was socialized in Nigeria, in Africa, in Nigeria, in Lagos, as an Igbo person in Lagos. You know, so I grew up with 2 cultures, in fact with 3 cultures, maybe even 4 cultures at the same time,
Yeah.
but they run parallel to each other. There's a culture of being Onyi Igbo, an Igbo person. You know, my parents are Igbo, even though I grew up in Lagos, always going to the East, learning the language. There's culture of the Yoruba culture that was around me, surrounded me where I was growing up, which I absorbed, you know, and which became very, very close to me. Then there's the Nigerian culture. There's something we call Nigerian culture. That is this blend, this mixture
Of everything.
You know, of everything,
Yeah.
you know. But then there's also the British culture.
Oh, yes.
Or British colonial, however I want to put it.
Yes,
you
true.
know, that you're not really aware of until
Yeah.
much later, that you absorb a lot which is completely,
Yeah.
has nothing whatsoever to do with Africa,
Yeah.
but it coexists with the African culture in Africa.
That's
and you
very
absorb
true.
it as you're growing up.
Yeah.
And it has a strong homogeneity to that place where it came from, which is, in this case, Britain, England, you know, and makes it easier, for instance, for a Nigerian who moves abroad to be able to feel at home more quickly and more easily in England than in France or than in Germany, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, so all these things at the same
And
time
mixed.
form the potpourri
Of a
that's-
person.
of that which socialized me and of my outlook to life and to everything. You know, my view on what is history, what is the world like, what are the values that should guide me. So they come from all these things, yeah.
But I think that's very interesting because you're among the few people who can say, I am me and I'm not influenced by all these external factors.
No, one is influenced by them, but one has one's core personality.
Of course.
You have your core personality.
But then,
you know.
there's
But
not...
the socializing, the process of, the socialization process of that personality took place into a certain society, you know. It's like somebody who is very aggressive, you know, is ready to fight. You can make him into a boxer, or you can make him into a tennis player, or you can even make him into something else. But whatever he does, he'll do it in an aggressive way.
Of course.
So that aggression is his core personality, but his socialization is into a completely different form. So even if you make him a very good aggressive tennis player, if you put him in the boxing courts, he will get beaten up. He will fight aggressively, but because he doesn't know it, it's a completely new world.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But not everybody has the courage to say, people always hide their true selves. The true selves, and always make excuses about, oh, I can't do this because my culture does not allow it. I can't do this because my environment does not allow it. So I think you're such a role model that you can stand up and say, hey, even though these external factors have an influence, at the end of the day, I am me, I am Che, and I have a unique personality, which everyone else has. And not everybody has the courage to do that. And I think that is a great thing, and that's a great thing that people should look up to you and be able to be courageous enough to say, I am me, because society always likes uniformity. So the moment a person acts a little bit out of line according to the set uniform norms, they are somehow excluded, and people are always scared to be excluded. So they do things just to fit in, even though it's not really themselves. So that's good from you.
Thanks for the feedback.
So, but that's very interesting. Now, I'd like to know, now that you're raising kids in Germany.
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, how do you do? Do you try to put all these aspects that you've already mentioned Because, you know, as a father, you play a very important role in raising your children.
Yeah.
You're going to mold them. You're going to have a great influence on who they're going to become in the future.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you sit down, do you really think about it? Do you like have a strategy on how you want to raise them, on what values, on what practices? Does that ever cross your mind?
Okay, thank you for the question. You know, this was in the topic of the interview, and, you know, I thought about it. You know, to start with, I have to go back to my childhood.
Okay.
You know, I was fortunate to have had my father throughout the period of my childhood, of my adolescent youth, my time as a young man. My father passed on when I was 41 years old, you know. So I was fortunate, and I thank the Almighty for that. I was also fortunate to have a father to whom fatherhood was very important, the role as a father. You know, he was there. He was there in my life as a child and as a teenager completely. He was interested in what books, he was interested first of all in me learning how to read, in me reading, what books I was reading, if I was doing sports, what sports I was doing, not just me, all my siblings, and in imparting values to me. And those things stayed with me. So he formed he formed the father in me that I would later become. You know, so he raised not just me as he raised not just a son, he also raised a father. You know, he became the model for me. And one of the most important things for him that he transferred to me, to his children, were the values, you know. And they were universal values. You know, they're not values that belong to any nationality, any race, any tribe, any gender. They're universal values. Perseverance, standing for what you believe, giving your all in everything that you do, you're preserving your dignity, you know, not doing anything to damage your reputation, working hard work, diligence, toil, as much as possible, straightforwardness, being straightforward, being honest, and being brave and bold. You know, having a goal in life, not don't choose the winner's side. Never choose a side because that's the winning side. Choose your side. Whether it's the winner's side or the loser's side, it doesn't matter. It is your side. And stick with it to the end. Whether you people win or lose. You know, such things are the values he imparted in me. Read a lot. Work hard. And they've been with me all my life. Now, I'm a father. But at the same time, let me go back again. All these things happened within another socialization context. That is in Africa, in Nigeria, you know, also as Igbo people. So there was for instance, the concept of respect.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It's very important. You know, have you said good morning? You know, sometimes when visitors come and I just morning and I go, you know, you ask me, say, why didn't you say a good morning? I said, I said good morning. He said, nobody heard it. You know, so you have to say it and, you know, things like that. Those values that we also consider African, which have a lot to do with respect and, you know, so now, although maybe different from most African fathers, he did not used to, you know, beat us.
Beat you. Wow.
You know, my father did not used to beat. He used to beat with his tongue.
Ah, okay.
He had a loud voice and a sharp tongue. Okay. And his eyes were like burning fire, you know. So when he's upset with you, My goodness.
He just needs to look at you and you
Look at
know
you
you're
and
doing
say
something
say
wrong.
something, you know. So he didn't
Yeah.
used to lay hands on us. That was not his style at all. You know, and it was a bit different from other fathers like that. But
Yeah.
he was very disciplined. Discipline was number one.
Yeah.
Come back from school, go and do your sports, go and do your homework. That was just school, homework, sports, school, homework, sports, school,
Yeah.
homework, sports. That was him, you know, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. Now I'm a father in a foreign land, you know, and I'm raising children here. My children are born in Germany. So my children are Germans, but at the same time, they are still Igbo people, you know, so they carry both in them. They're still Africans, you know. They carry both in them from me and also from their mother, you know, but I am the father. And it's very important to me that when my children one day grow up and they look back on their childhood, I want them to look back with the same sense of gratitude, nostalgia that I have when I look back on my childhood and think of my father. You know, that means he set the example for me. Number one being that I always have to be there in their life, you know. As much as possible, when they wake up in the morning, let them see me. In the evening, before they sleep, let them see me. In the afternoon, do things with them. Whether it is to take them to sports or to do sports with them, or to do their homework with them, or maybe to play some games with them, tell them stories, laugh with them, joke with them, those kinds of things. Just be there. And very importantly, to watch and observe the development of their character and the extent to which certain key, core, universal values are taking root in their character or not taking root in their character. You know, to be very conscious of it, very aware of it, and to try and nurture the awakening and the strengthening of these values in their character. Honesty, respect to their parents, discipline, diligence and hard work, perseverance. If you start something, you finish it, you know.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 7, my brother Kwame was 6, my sister was 5, we were insisting we wanted to do karate, martial arts, because we saw it, they looked so nice. And my father said, but if you start, you can't stop.
So whatever you start,
That was the contract we had. If we start,
you have to
we
finish.
can't stop. We said, yes, we won't stop. I said, okay. So he got us the, you know, the gi. That's what they call the karate gi. And then we started. Of course, after a while, it became strenuous because you have to go. We are going for training 3 times a week. At first, it was just every Saturday. Then later, I changed to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do it anymore. But he said, no, we have to continue.
Yeah.
So we continued from white to yellow to red to whatever, brown, black belt. We did tournaments, but we became very good at it. From karate, we later changed to taekwondo. You know, it later became a sport that my entire family does.
Oh, that's amazing. Now.
But this thing of you start, you don't finish. You know, so these are values which I try to impart on my children. I mean, I'm not forcing them to do martial arts or whatever. I'm just saying that to explain to them, you start things.
You have to bring it to the end.
You finish it. You stick to things. You stick to your word. You know, you pick a side. You're loyal to your friends. You know, you're disciplined.
Yes.
You're hardworking. Your word carries weight in the life of it. When people say, okay, here, this is your word, it has value, you know. So, yeah.
And I like the way you do it. I like your values. Have you had any challenges? Because in as much as somebody has, I mean, you have your own values, obviously. You want to bring your children using these values that are part of you. However, we are in 2 different societies with 2 different norms. And I've seen that. Even for me, when I came here, there's some things I saw and I would be like, back at home, I wouldn't even imagine of doing it. Like small things like I would never call my mother with her name. You understand? But here it's normal and it's allowed. It's not a big deal. I would never call or even my uncles or my aunties by their names. That would be unheard of. So And I'm sure there's some things that for you, maybe you make compromises because somehow you think, okay,
Yeah.
this is a different society. I cannot fully implement some
Yeah.
values. Are there some,
Yeah.
and what are the examples?
Okay, I'm going to break this issue into 2 or 3 different categories.
Yeah.
First of all, humankind does not stay the same from generation
Of
to
course,
generation.
yeah.
It is always changing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the changes from one generation to the next is very little, but sometimes they're big. But if you look back over 3, 4, 5 generations, you'll always see changes.
Of course, obviously.
The way my father and his father were to each other. It's not the way if you go back 6 generations, those two were. There are differences.
True.
It always keeps changing because evolution is just a law in human being.
Yeah.
We're always evolving and changing.
Yeah.
So I remember my father said some things to me sometime when I was a child. He said, that in his childhood, what I did now, that he could never have done it with his father.
Of course,
but I
yes.
did it, and he just left it.
Yes.
So the same way, there will be some things that my son will do that I could not have done to my father.
Yes.
Or maybe I did to my father, he was very upset with me. And as a child, I thought he's been unfair, And if I have a son one day, I'll not be that way to him.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a father,
Yeah.
those things that I said I'll not be that way to my son, I divide them into 2. There
Okay.
are some of them that I will be that way to my son because in retrospect, my father was right.
Yes.
But there are some which I say, yes, I will not be that way to
Okay.
my son because I experienced it and I feel
True.
that I can still guide him without doing it in that particular form. So we learn from our fathers and our parents the things to take along, and there are many, but also
Yeah.
the things to drop.
To drop.
It's
Exactly.
very, very important to know. So we always
Yes.
keep changing. And then the another part of it is that there's individuality. When you say that in Africa, we don't call our fathers by their first name than our parents, it's not everybody.
True.
Even in Africa, then, there are some people that I know, they allow their children to call them by their first name. Some people are rebels. They rebel against society, and they say there's nothing wrong with it. And some of those people, if you see their children today, there's nothing wrong with those children. They were not badly
Of course.
raised.
Yep.
They are living their life, doing their own thing, It is true, I never called my father by his first name. Never even occurred to me to call him by his first name. He never asked me to do so, things like that. My children don't call me by my first name, but they know my first name. Sometimes they say it. Sometimes my son tells me, your name is Che. I say, yes. So my daughter tells me, But
Yeah.
I never told them not to call me by my first name.
Yeah.
And if they call me, I cannot say for sure that I'll tell them not to call me because to me, honestly, to tell the truth, I don't care. The important thing is that the fact that they call me my daddy, or father, is because it shows to me that what they perceive from me is my fulfillment of my function
Of
as
your
a
role
father.
as the father.
So that is what they always see when
Okay.
so that's what they call me. Same thing with their mother. They don't call her by her first name, but they
Yeah.
know it. So I've never explicitly forbidden them from doing it, but I've never asked them
Not to do
just
it.
like my father did not ask me to call, but then but they know it. But there are some things that I don't encourage. I will never stand and see them be rude. For instance, to their mother, or to me, to their parents, it's a no, 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 no. I scold them. I say, this is not allowed. You cannot be rude to your parents. And I'm just trying to think of any other thing that is, maybe I see often in this society, and that I'll say, I think it's that issue of respect.
Yeah.
Respect your parents, But I explain it to them. I talk and explain to them. I say, look, your parents do this and this and this and this and that to you. Do you think is right? And I think those are the talks that they hate the most because
True.
I can go on for 2 hours. You can see they're tired. They want it to stop. I'm just
But then
sort of exaggerating.
every society has a different definition
but
of what respect is. Yeah, so.
Yeah, you're right. So, in a way, yes, but
Yeah.
in a way, some things are very simple. Respect is, for instance, of course, you should never hit your mother or your father or whatever, number one. You should never use any abusive words towards them. Number two, you wake up, you say good morning, good afternoon. They give you things, you say thank you. You want things from them, you say please. If they say no, you know, to something, you want to watch TV later and they say no, you accept it without, you know, throwing unnecessary tantrums. Of course, if you throw a little tantrum, it's okay, we're all human beings.
Of course, obviously.
I understand. I know how it felt at that age, you know, and then you, you know, sort of you accept the boundaries set by your parents with, which does not mean you cannot show your dislike or disapproval. You're a human being. You're allowed to,
obviously,
you know, do so. Yeah.
So basically, each person should just define for themselves what works for them. They should take things from their upbringing that works for them. The things that do not work for them, they don't have to take it. And I think that's something great that some people should take. Just because things were done in a certain way in the past, it doesn't mean you have to do it the same way with your children.
That's true.
Yes.
And to add to that also, you know, because we always say Africa, Africa, Africa. If you honestly look into your past, you might find out that maybe your father's part of the family, they were different from your mother's part of the
obviously,
family.
that's...
You understand? And even the way they raise children and all those things.
Exactly.
Even when I think of my father's part of the family and my mother's part of the family, they were very different, you know, but they all had very high values. You know, they all placed a high premium in the highest values and principles. But they express them very differently.
Differently,
you know,
obviously.
and I, as a human being, I have to filter, you know, very intelligently. You know, and like I say, I'm very fortunate. Honestly, I'm really, really very fortunate. I had good parents. You know, I had good parents, and I can always say that proudly. You know, and yet I have to filter. You know, in the times in which we live, there are some things that, and I believe everybody had it. As a child, and I don't just mean as a child, 8 or 9 years old, maybe when you're turning 14 or 15 or 16, something like that, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 things you tell yourself, you know, when I become a parent one day, I will do this differently.
I'll do this differently, of course.
You know?
We all have it.
And then as you become older and become a parent, there'll be 1 or 2 things you tell yourself, wow, now I understand why my parents did this. I will retain this one, but this one, I will do it differently.